Hey, what's up? Welcome to the show. An old guy told me in the business when I first started, he said, John, we interview for our job every time we talk to our client. Every call, every meeting, we are re-interviewing for the job. And so tonight, we're going to talk about that because I think we forget that renewal meetings are, you literally really have to sell them on yourself, on what you're doing, confidence and certainty. And I think many people don't realize how important a renewal meeting is, especially, and I'm not talking to smaller clients, I'm talking to bigger clients, things you're doing self-funded, so on and so forth, bigger revenue accounts. I mean, in small groups, there's only so much you can do, right, Craig? It's service them well, spreadsheet the small group rates, and, talk about the hobbies of their kids or something. But in the bigger world, on bigger revenue accounts, you better have a story. You better put an act together. I mean, you're re-interviewing and reminding them why they chose you, why they should continue with you. Because if you're falling asleep at the wheel, if you're not selling confidence and certainty, your feet fell asleep. Look out. What do you think?
I think the question you got to ask yourself, just think of it this way. What's my competition going to be coming in here and saying? And that should motivate you to take care of business and do your job and let people know what their options are and what's going on in the marketplace. You may think you understand your client, and I bet at some point in your career, you lost a case because honestly, the problem was you. You thought you knew your client, and they never change. They always present. They never change. And then they changed.
Hey,
you didn't say anything.
Yeah, we had one with one of our advisors. That's one of our favorite, kicking butt out there, closing cases, using self-funding. He goes, I lost one of my biggest accounts. I never talked to them about self-funding because I knew their PPY was X and there's nowhere for them to go and they can't go self-funded. But I never talked to them about it. And then the other broker came in and talked about it and said they're going to do all these things. And they moved to him because they said, you never told us about this. He's like, no, I can do that. And
too late.
Too late. Now, unfair to him that, they're not going to be able to do anything for him. But you know what? They already made the change. And once they make that change, it's very hard to, it's going to be hard to get him back. And, hey, you can sell a client, hey, we were going to do this, X, Y, and Z. Didn't work out. You're not right. You're not a right fit. Maybe you are in a year. They already got the broker record. So, too late, too sorry. So talking about that, I mean, I think a bird in the hand's better than two in the bush, right? And so those that are managing a block, you better take care of your clients because if not, somebody else is going to. And, those key accounts, right? Craig, what's the numbers you always give? Like your top 20 you could replace?
Oh my gosh, yeah, the stats are unbelievable, right? So you can eliminate the bottom 40% of your book of business, and it will only take one or at most typically two new A-list clients to replace the bottom 40% of your book of business. Now, if that doesn't make you stand up and pay attention, it's about working smarter, everybody.
Yeah, if that doesn't make sense to you, we're gonna send you a copy of this book that says they give this out when you move to from Fort Lauderdale. It says the illustrated easy way to stop drinking.
Does that come with every new apartment?
Yeah, it comes with every new apartment. It's in the welcome gift. With the welcome gift came with champagne, shots of vodka, shot glasses. Yeah, they get you going over here. But we'll hit you over the head. We'll send one of those out to you if you need. But again, important. So what are some of the things you talk about in a renewal meeting, right? So let's think about this. And, we can say self-funded groups, we could bounce around fully insured groups, self-funded groups. I think if you're meeting with clients, even in prospects, you've fully insured groups, right? You've got to start to talk to them about what's coming down the pike to settle their worries. They want certainty. My guy's got it. From a tax standpoint, you want to see tax strategists giving you not only strategies, but what's to come. Hey, the new regs are coming out. Here's what it looks like. We don't know yet, but they're ahead of the game. So let them know, hey, let's talk about market conditions now. What's in the Inflation Reduction Act? What's to come? What could hit the plan? What threats we have? And yeah, are they going to be thrilled to hear it? No, but you're educating them. You're letting them know that you're a player in the market. You know what's going on. you're a professional, you're an expert in the field. And when you speak like an expert, you give them expert information, they come at ease, right, Craig? It's like, okay, I feel better and more comfortably because my guy knows about it.
Yeah.
My guy or girl knows about this, and he's going to know how to handle it. We're ahead of the game. I'm less worried, and I can sleep more at night because I don't have to worry about what I see.
I just need to know that my guy or gal is taking care of me. And so when they tell me about this stuff, even though I may really honestly have no intention of doing it, I just like to know that they know so that I don't have to look over my shoulder all the time.
Yeah, because look, they're in a, especially if you're dealing with the HR, they're in a position where they're been delegated to deal with this and kind of choose the advisor and know about this stuff. And so
don't forget,
at ease.
They got like 10 other jobs too.
Yeah. So market threats, right? The Inflation Reduction Act, Craig. What did we talk about that's in there? Did we talk about that on the last show?
Yeah, we talked about all the Medicare changes and how it was probably going to be, a backdoor way to lower Medicare down to 60.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing a talk in front of some CFOs in September, and we're going to talk about that and get these guys' ass off the couch that haven't made a change and go, look, here's what's coming down the pike. So at some point, you need to make this change, whether it's now or in a year or two. You want to create urgency to get them self-funded, whether it's prospect or even clients in a fully insured marketplace, right? So market threats, obviously, healthcare's, the inflation, current inflation, well, what's healthcare going to look like? We all know that. What do the large claimants look like? You see all the stop loss reports. And that being said, show sponsor Virtue Health. Check us out. We're going to have another webinar in 2 weeks talking about guys winning new business using the Virtue Health solution and sales system. So give us a buzz. Check us out. Book a demo, virtuealliance.com, #1 performance consortium in the country. I'll put anything up against it. So what we're seeing is the larger claims, they're more frequent. $1 million claims are more frequent.
Yeah.
And they're more money, right? So that's the cost of insurance. That's going to go up because the claim price is going up. So you need to understand, obviously we talked about leverage trend, but let them know, you get a raise, you see what inflation is going to cost. Well, what do you think about healthcare claims going to cost next year for that same surgery? 10% more, 20% more.
Yeah.
This is how insurance works. You're going to have to pay them more to cover that claim. So when you ask, why is it going up 15%, this and that, this is why. So if you do absolutely nothing, this is where it leads, right? Show them a pro forma. We use a pro forma when we're selling prospects and we say, here's our strategy. Here's what our increases look like. Let's project it over 5 years, 10 years. Let's look at fully insured. And we can be conservative on fully insured, and it's still, the delta is crazy and it gets up there fast. So, let's not look at just this year, right?
Exactly.
Let's look forward. Let's get out of the 1 year cycle. And is it sexy enough to this year? No, it compounds. But I don't think, it's only this year. Yeah, but that number is now going to compound year over year. It's what you don't understand. And so here's what we're going to look like in 5 years. I'm just letting you know.
People aren't good at math. You got to do it for them. John, what about just a simple conversation of, I think HR has an opinion on this most years. What are people using in our health plan? What are you hearing about, right? Is it prescriptions? Is it the office visits? Is it that lab and x-ray? I know from my old days, 90% of the frequency of claims are primary, specialist, lab, x-ray, and prescriptions. And pharmacies usually 10 to 12x the frequency of any other claim. So if you just had that as an introductory conversation, lab and x-ray, prescriptions, primary care, and you go, okay, so you got these issues, you have these concerns, but we're with an insurance carrier. There's literally almost no options to address any of those issues, which are 90% of our claims, which is, part of the reason why I want to talk to you about, switching from fully insured to the Virtue Alliance is because when we're in that program, we can do something about every one of those options to improve the experience for our employees.
Yeah,
here's an easy segue.
We'll make a note to get out that document, recreate it, tighten up a little bit. Fully insured versus, writing it down now, fully insured versus self-funded, right? You could start out with that and just say, look, let's look, and you can have a little fun with it and put something over the top of the two, plan A, plan B, right? Funding
Yeah.
strategy, cover up self-funded, fully insured, and just go down, hey, here's how one funding works, here's how the other works. Which one do you want to do? Right? And lay out to them the threats of fully insured versus the threats of self-funded, because
I think it takes away, take away the focus on the funding strategy and make it about, you told me that these are the issues that you hear about from your workforce. We're in a relationship where we exchange premiums, but we don't have any controls. There's nothing we can do about it. We take whatever they give us. And so my job is to let you know about options that are available to us in the marketplace where we could solve, fix, adjust, modify, improve the experience for these issues that are a high priority for you. So let's look at how we do that. And it just so happens that the funding of that solution is just it's a feature and a benefit. It's not the focus, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you could start out the meeting with, the whole small talk, go into market threats, what's on the horizon over the next couple of years. Here's what's coming now, year 1, year 2, 3, 4, 5, what to expect. And then you can talk about, well, these are the threats, and here are some of the options. What can we do to mitigate those costs? This. We have this with pharmacy, we have that. And, that's when you can get into the fact of, well, look, if we continue, let's talk about funding strategies, or however you want to do it, self-funded, custom plans, fully insured plans, however you want to label it.
Tons.
Here's the plans, right? This plan here will allow you to do this. This plan won't. Okay. So you're laying out the strat. You're giving the ideas, because most brokers will go in and they think just shop the market, show the options, and move on. And while it is your job to show them the market is not just a spreadsheet. It's telling them the story of how each one works, the threats, where they are, where you identify their profile from a risk standpoint. I mean, looking at their population, their ages, their gender, so on and so forth. Learned recently, an 18-year-old versus a 65-year-old. 65-year-old, you need 7 times the premium for it. Affordable Care Act only allows them to spread it over 3x. Let one be 3x more than the other. So they have to squeeze down their numbers. They have to squeeze them even tighter, their bands. And so there's a lot of groups overpaying if they're the right demographics. Okay. And so you've got to help them identify and go, look, you're underpaying for insurance. You're on the top tier. Maybe create a tier. You're on the top tier here. Our premiums are here. Okay. We're winning because we should be paying more due to our demographics, and let that sink into them. Let them know what to expect, because everybody thinks, oh, I'm paying so much for healthcare. No, you're actually underpaying compared to the market, right? It's all relative to what are you comparing this to? Okay. And so you've got to kind of set them in, and make them understand it, because then, again, the increases in storage is going to be less, instead of coming in and be like, yeah, what is it this year? Let me flip it open here. What do we got? Oh, we're at 20%. Yeah. But I beat them down to 12, and it's just not a renewal story. You're not a professional, you're not a consultant. Start consulting. You'll keep your cases longer. You'll put them in the right place. And, anybody that comes in behind you is going to sound like an idiot, because you're being judged, you're being measured, right? You're getting interviewed every time you speak to your client. And so your renewal meeting is to reassure them and set it for at least 2 hours, because you're going to have so much small talk, but reassure them you have the expert.
You're in good hands.
Yeah.
Right? I think the most important thing you said is you better have a story to communicate where we are today, where we've been briefly, right? And what's coming, and how we're going to anticipate it and move in advance, as opposed to wait for it and react every year. So if you have a good story, you do your job, then when the new person comes in, there's nothing that's going to be left. And when that happens, you don't lose the client. I can remember certain industries, it's like, well, we have to interview somebody every 4 years. Okay. So you go in, right? You do your full court press, you do your job, they come in, they go, just pretty much just everybody got the same stuff. Okay. No change. And so just keep in mind, when you're prospecting, there's a lot of opportunities, because what John described is like the typical renewal. shop the spreadsheet. Here's the rates. Focus on all the wrong things. Here's how much you're paying for admin. Oh, that's too much. Let's find a cheaper TPA. Oh my goodness. Talk about looking through the wrong end of the telescope. Those are all opportunities. So recognize that there's a certain percentage of the business where, the consultant, the advisor, isn't showing up with a story. They're showing up with a spreadsheet, and that's probably not enough if you have a good, better story.
Yeah, and look, your story is you're never trying to manipulate or do wrong by the client, but certain meetings you're focusing on certain things. For instance, your client, right? If there's not a whole ton you can do for them, we talked about benchmarks. Not a big benchmark guy, but if you got a client that is dramatically underpaying, it tends to always happen with the groups that hate to pay for insurance, right, Craig? And everybody's single, so they're not paying a lot towards the benefits.
Yeah.
And it's all single, and their PEPY is 6,500, and they're coming and beating you over the head and interviewing everybody. It's like, let me just show you the Kaiser studies, the PEPY nationally, individually, family. I told you about one of my clients that actually now is finally coming around after 4 years. She digs me in the ground every renewal. Now, look, we've been giving her 20, 30% a year on fully insured, but the starting rate used to be 190 for a single. And so, 2 years ago when we were there and it was going up 25%, I showed her, well, your family rate is 1,050 in New Jersey. Okay.
Right.
Unbelievable. And so I had to show her the Kaiser studies, and only when the CFO said, wow, geez, my family premium was almost double that at my last company, right? And so, again, you got to show them some data to go, here's where the mark, especially when
this isn't what they do for a living. They don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy, and you deal with that. And some of those groups, look, they are who they are. They don't want to pay a lot towards benefits. They're looking to save every penny and pull down 6,500 PEPY and shop and PEO and everything they can. They're not going anywhere. But so talking about market threats, here's some options that you could do to mitigate costs that are upcoming, or some of these threats that are coming, and then you got to go into the history, right? I've left meetings, Greg, that I think I forgot to go over the renewal increase because it didn't matter at the end. It was irrelevant. They're self-funded. It's nothing, right? They understand what we're doing. They're bought into the concept. So now let's talk about the history. Here's where we were, fully insured. Here's where that trend line goes. We moved here this year. Year this, we cut copays, we cut deductibles, whatever you did. Year over year, we saved this. Here's your cumulative savings. Had we not met, this is what you would have projected to pay conservatively. And you can even show a higher number. Conservatively would have been this. This is what I'm worth to you had we never met. You got to make sure you remind them, because all they're going to see, especially if you're delivering a 20% rate increase, not all premium, just maximum exposure increase, they're going to only look at that. If you go to that, that's what they're going to focus on. And so you got to take their focus off that so they can understand it better, re-educate them. It's almost like if you don't have case studies for prospects, you're crazy. You should be create case studies for your freaking employers that you're going to meet with. Here's a case study that I'm going over with you. And I know this sounds like a lot of work, but if you got a revenue account that's 25 grand, 50 grand, 100, whatever, hundreds of $1,000s, you should be doing this, and you should have your hands on it, not just the account manager. So case study. That's essentially what you're doing, is going through the case study, reminding of the pain they were in, what it was like when we met, why we made this change, how we're doing, how things are going.
And for Pete's sake, stop focusing on the parts of the renewal based on your income level. based on the fact that you would only own a Timex and you would never invest in a Rolex. Okay. And I say invest because just recently they were up 250%. Many of those Rolexes, because there's such an intense demand. So you're doing the renewal and they walk in and they talk about what you just said, John, the 20% theoretical max liability, right? It was set at 125% of expected. It's almost never pierced. And yet they're focused on that stuff, and they major in all the minor things, I call it, right? Your admin fee. It's like, well, if you TPA and your case management are doing a good job, that price is irrelevant because they're saving you more than that in claims. But if you don't know that, there's a lot of time focused on the trivia.
Yeah, anytime I know I can tell the experience of an advisor when he says, "Oh, that TPA's admin was no, I don't like them. Their admin's too high," or they charge X amount per script fee.
Exactly.
I'm like, you just completely missing the boat as to because they don't know any better. That's what you're taught at the beginning. Fight what you could fight. The claims are the claims, and so
Sure.
this is all we can do, and this is the only value I can bring you. But you're missing the boat of the bigger picture. 80 to 90 cents of every dollar is directly or indirectly related to claims experience. You're going to say, wait, claims aren't 80 to 90%. Well, think about it. They're directly or indirectly. What would be the other thing that's factored into the claims? Your stop loss insurance, hence Virtue Health. Why can we keep the premium stabilized over time? We control the high dollar claims. Okay. When you evacuate claims in pharmacy and have good administrators, you evacuate a high percentage of those major claims, which controls the stop loss premiums. Okay. You want to lower stop loss, control it over time, lower the claims. Now, the admin price is going to be the admin price. They have to make money. I don't want to beat them up so they just process claims. If you're trying to compare it to Buca's, they're claims processors, not claims managers.
Yeah, so 90% auto adjudication. That's just the claims processor.
Yes, very easy to do. Talk about benchmarks, right? Let's see what else I got here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, we talked about some of the threats. I mean, pharmacies coming down a pike, and you can show them that if you're not using a strategy for pharmacy and you're self-funded, you should be, my opinion, you should be fired. If you're not on the boat of that, it's the easiest thing to pierce. If you're not doing that, there's a good chance you should be fired. If you're talking about an RX consortium and go, it might hurt some people's feelings. If you're using a pharmacy consultant, that's because you're probably with a PBM that's ripping the client off, and they're saying we can get you better pricing, or we're gonna watch over. We're gonna watch over them, make sure they live by their contract. Good luck with that, because if I can source $100,000 med for free, I don't know how you're going to manage it better.
Let me tell you, learning curves are expensive. So don't just think that, because you became aware of it and you no longer are living under a rock. I mean, my God, the PBMs are coming out of the woodwork. It seems like, John, there's a new one every 90 days, it seems like. And so for the most part, people don't know what they don't know. So you better figure out where to find really smart advice on how to interpret a PBM. John, I know what you and I spent 3 days in Vegas going to a PBM school on how to find out where you're getting abused by your PBM. And that was really excellent. And so these kinds of resources are available. And so you need to talk to people who can shorten your learning curve.
Then I realized after going to it was, I don't need to be the expert in this. I know you're getting screwed, but let me have a subject matter expert, because this is way too complex to be able to just focus on this.
Oh my God, it is.
I'm the quarterback. Let me put my partners together, because it's
who's the subject matter expert
and complex.
Bring them in.
If you're not an expert at pharmacy, is very complex, and a lot of them tell stories, and if they're getting revenue from the PBM based on your utilization. I had an argument one time with one of the big PBM guys in the industry, and it was he was just talking in circles. It just made no sense. But
I remember the guy who said he wasn't making any money and sold his PBM for $500 million.
I think that's who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I thought it might be.
Provider consolidation. Let them know what's happening in the market. I mean, you see Amazon just backed out. Talk about that. Amazon tried. Right now they're failing. United Healthcare is buying some things, hospitals, so on and so forth. And really start talking to them about that. Again, you're re-interviewing for your job here. If you're trying to push them to self-funded, this will help in that situation, right? The only way you're going to be able to control it is self-funded. You can design a plan that controls costs dramatically better. And so you might say, well, John, what if you have a bad year, or this or that? And obviously you have reinsurance and protection in place. Your attachment point doesn't run well. But let's look at it. So we had an interview for my job again, 6 months into the year. Evidently, the CFO budgeted wrong, and we spent dramatically more on healthcare. How the hell could that happen, John? You told me it was going to be this. How could I spend this much? Well, Bob, you didn't factor in that your company added X amount more people. You didn't factor in that your population, singles versus families, dramatically changed. So you budgeted, a max number versus, per head based on enrollment. And so here he is pissed off saying, not what we're doing, not working, what happened, and pointing the finger again. Meanwhile, the guy's known me for 5 years. I've saved him tons of money, evacuated monster claims. And so what did I have to do? I had to get on a call with him, go through the spreadsheet, what we sold to him, break down every dollar amount for the rates, and go, no, this is what you're being billed for. This is what we talked about. Here's why it's different. Here's your population at enrollment.
Yeah, exactly.
Today, right? Re-interview, and then say, now, let's talk about claims for a second. Let's talk about what it could look like had we not done this. And I had to resell 4 people. And, by the time it was done, it was like they felt like an idiot because they realized, oh, I misinterpreted, and, blah, 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 blah.
Jump to conclusion.
Oh, great. Thanks. Oh, my God. Yeah, I forgot about that claim. You know what? I forgot. Let me tell the president about that $2 million claimant that we evacuated from the plan, because what do you think is going to happen if he was on the plan? What that compounds at in fully insured. So those that are self-funded, a little trick for you guys, if you're not doing it, just some ideas for you, is if you're evacuating claims, right? Mitigating them, evacuating them. Let's say it's $100,000 in pharmacy, right? What you've got to do is go back in and go, okay, well, let's assume we were fully insured. You pay for that claim plus the margin on top. Let's compound that over on top of their renewal percentage, right? Because you can't just look at what the renewal might have been based off what we're doing self-funded. Well, add those claims back in and then factor in what that would look like. And then they'll come back to, reality and realize, oh shit, yeah, what we're doing is good and works, and they'll get scared about going out of their market. So that's something that I always talk about. And maybe they don't have claims this year. You might have reminded them of claims in the past. You got to remind them of the things that we have in place should a claim occur, right? Because we're not going to try to implement it in 12th hour. Once it's there, you're screwed. So have things in place.
And these guys, what about the bad claims, John? What about, it's like, wait, you guys have a 401k. If you were afraid of that, you wouldn't have a 401k. The stock market, I realize that if you're young, with the unusual economic circumstance we've had since 2008, we've had an up market for 13 years in a row. That, of course, doesn't happen. Regression to the mean is inevitable, but every year it has a different amount. At a different particular quarter, you could be up or down. The volatility has increased dramatically, whereas on a calendar year, it's been up. Within that year, you could have been down 20%. And so you always are, subject to that question mark, depending on, well, what's your holding period? And so part of the reason why you sell partial self-funding on a long-term basis is because at any one point, any CFO knows if I look at the balance sheet, I may look like a crappy company, and 6 months later, I look fantastic. So it's just a moment in time. So you have to consider, what's my holding period? Well, when are you selling the company? No time soon? Well, then your holding period is going to be for years. And at the end of the day, if you tell me you're conservative, I just had this conversation with a group today. Well, we're very conservative. I said, well, then words are important. We just have to come to an agreement on how you define conservative, because I don't define conservative as I will purposely overpay on claims that I have no business paying for and funding, while stealing money from my own employees and doing nothing, changing nothing, and knowing that that's going to be the outcome. I don't call that conservative. So help me understand your definition of conservative, right? So it's like when you said, John, the push. We're not pushing anybody into self-funding. What they're going to come to the conclusion, if you do your job right, is that they're going to persuade themselves that there are so many things they didn't know about what that meant versus the predicament and the circumstances and the inflexibility of where they're at fully insured, that they come to the conclusion on their own based on your education that staying the same is not possible. We have to do something, because the only possibility over time to be in a winning position is to not be fully insured. And when you learn how to articulate that message, you're going to have, while it's harder during the year, I would argue, like you said, John, if you know how to explain it, it's like we didn't really talk about the renewal per se, because it's like a little moment. It's 1 month window in the time of years, and we already know we're in the right position at the right time. And it's not like a fully insured where it's all or nothing, right? We're taking the 16% hit, or we aren't, or we're going to buy the lowball carrier's quote. It's not like that. Unless, of course, you sell it that way, right? Like some brokers do. Oh, we got to shop the stop loss every year. Like, bad idea, because they don't even know. Does that stop loss carrier, who's buying market rate, but you don't really have that much business, so you don't know that, do they do underwriting at time of claim? Because boy, that's an uncomfortable position to be in.
Yes. One of the things that I wanted, before I forget, setting the hurdle, right? Where is fully insured, right? Let's say you're dealing with a client self-funded, right? So you're doing well, self-funded, but in any given time, the fully insured carrier will buy business any given year. So something that I talk to my clients and always said it early on, right? I don't go out at renewal time. I'll do 150 days in advance, 130 days in advance. And then, when the renewal does come in, unless something dramatic change, it's very simple. But that's really the renewal meeting, essentially. And it's like, look, here's what we're doing. Great strategy. After you go through it all and say, now, you remember fully insured, you remember that world. Well, there's 5 carriers in the market. We could go out to the market right now, and I guarantee you somebody will buy your business this year. Okay? They'll give me a cheaper rate. You'll save money this year. You'll get a lower maximum exposure this year, right? However, next year, I have no idea where it happens. All those claims that we evacuate are now going to be incurred on the new plan, and who knows what that looks like, and they're going to get us later. Okay, do you want to go down that route again? Do you want us to look out at that market, right? And normally they'll be like, no, I don't want to go back to that. And so now you've just set a hurdle. You basically confirmed, I don't want to shop fully insured. I don't want to go down that route. You sold against it again, and now you don't have to worry about outside competition or marketing it and thinking through all that nonsense. You just work on the self-funded renewal. You have to resell the strategy. It's something important to do, because you don't want somebody to back end you and go, well, I got a cheaper rate. Well, of course you're going to get a cheaper rate. So when the outside broker calls, or they do quote with them, they show them, well, yeah, I know what's going to happen. Next year it's going to go up, and we're back in that. I don't want to make all those changes. It's not worth it, because I don't want to go back on the hamster wheel. Something that I always do. And if you're taking client self-funded, make sure you do that at renewal, because we know fully insured will buy the business in any given year. And then what happens? You're back in a black box. Who knows where you go next year? So,
yeah.
Being said,
but it's easy. It's easy.
Yeah. Put the easy button. I think that's it. We covered a lot here. We'll give you some ideas. Work up your renewal strategy, renewal structure. We got a holiday coming up. Enjoy your holiday. We're going to have some brokers on next month talking about some of their cases, what they're doing to win business, strategy. It's going to be fun. And so keep listening, keep learning, and we'll see you every week, same time, new time, 7 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, guys, girls.
4 p.m. Pacific.
4 p.m. Pacific, close enough. Close enough. Said it for 4 years. But tune in every week. If you're listening on the podcast, check us out live. We are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. You can't find us, you're lost. Find us, send us an email. We'll send you this book, because you need to stop.
That's right.
All right. Winter's here, guys. Winter is here. It's here early. And it's going to be a big one. Enjoy your time. See you next week.
Go get them.
Happy holidays.